We'll turn these into these 4 different styles with one crochet pattern. Hello, my yarny friends. I'm Sara Sach, and I'm super excited about today's video. What we're doing today is we're going to make a headband. It's a headband that measures about 3.5 inches wide, and it fits a 22 to 24 inch head. But it's super easy to adjust smaller or bigger because it's basically a 2-row repeat once you get started. But what we're going to do is a study in 4 different styles that you can make with this one headband pattern. They're all made exactly the same with the same yarn, and it's the finish that makes it different. And I think you're really going to enjoy this because everyone has different styles that they really like to make. And it's fun to try some different styles and stitch up a really cool pattern. This is a pattern that I'm calling the mock cable because we're not doing any cable stitches. It's basically double crochets, front posts and back posts, and V-stitches. Really simple, but it looks really pretty because it is kind of a classy stitch. And I think that the guys would love this pattern just as much as us girls. It's perfect for boys and girls. They're also perfect if you like to do that jogging in the morning or maybe take your dog for a walk in the evening when it cools down just a little bit. They're great for that too. So this is our, like I said, 4-in-1 headband, a study in different styles of headbands with one pattern. And you can find that complete pattern with pictures on my blog. And as always, I'll put that blog link down in the notes underneath this video. So like I said at the beginning of the video, we're doing a study of 4 ways to make, or I should say, join our headbands into a headband. I made 4. I used medium weight number 4 yarn, and this particular yarn is called Premier Sweet Roll Frostie, and the color is Marzipan. It's a long striping yarn. I had an extra cake left from a blanket that I made, and so I thought it was perfect for this because it is such a pretty yarn, and it would come up with some really different colors. Now this one I used I got all 3 of these, and then this one, and then this yarn here that's a little bit darker. It's Savannah's Choice that I just happen to have on hand. So you can see it's just a little bit darker than this one. But I thought this was perfect. If you want to use this, you can, but you can use any medium weight number 4 acrylic yarn to do this. All right, and we're going to be making the 4 kinds. We're going to be making, like I said, the basic. We're going to make a twisted. We're going to make a gathered, and then we're going to make the more twisted. There's 2 types of twisted. There's a simple twist and then a much more intricate twist. So we're going from just putting it together to twisting it and just having some fun. So what we're going to do first is I'm going to show you how to make this beautiful, what I'm calling a mock cable. It's really simple. It's perfect for guys and girls. You know, it's nothing really fancy, but it makes a really neat texture. Okay, and we're going to make one so that you can see how to make the actual headband. And then I've got 4 made, and I'm going to show you how to do all 4 of the ways of how to join and make it look different by the way that you join it or twist it. All right? All righty. You only need about 2.5 ounces per headband. We're going to be stitching today with our H hook, which is a 5mm crochet hook. You need a needle and a pair of scissors, and that's it. All right, let's get started. We're going to make our slip knot, and we're going to loosely chain 15 chains. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15 chains. And I do recommend that you stitch those just a little bit loose, so when we do join the ends of our headbands, we don't get this too puckered up on the end. You want it to be loose so they can meet up. All right. We're going to begin by placing a double crochet in the 4th chain from the hook. You never count that loop on your hook. 1, 2, 3, 4. So yarn over, and let's make our double crochet. All right, and so now we're going to double crochet in each of those chains. Alrighty, 2 more. There's 1 and 2. And I'm going to go ahead and chain 3. And so for row 1, you have 13 double crochets because we began in the 4th chain from the hook, and this chain 3 here counts as our first. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 double crochets, chain 3 for row 1. We've chained 3. We're going to turn our work. We're going to double crochet in the next double crochet because our chain 3 counts as our first double crochet. Now we're going to front post double crochet in the next 2 stitches. And that just means we're going to go around the post of the stitch instead of stitching in the top. So yarn over, we'll go around that post and stitch our double crochet. And then we'll do that in the next stitch as well. So we'll have 2 front post double crochets. Now we're going to double crochet in the next stitch. And so you can see we have 2 double crochets, we have 2 front post double crochets, and then a double crochet. We're going to skip the next stitch and V-stitch in the next. So we'll go in that, here's the skipped one, and we'll go in this next stitch and stitch a double crochet, chain 1, and double crochet. Now we'll skip the next stitch and double crochet in the next. Now we'll stitch a front post double crochet in the next 2 stitches, just like we did over here. Okay, so I've got 2 front post double crochets, and that leaves me 2 stitches, and I'm going to double crochet regular up in the top where we usually stitch in these last 2 stitches. And chain 3. All right, so let's take a look at what we did for row 2. Our chain 3 counted as our first double crochet, and then we double crocheted in the next stitch. We stitched a front post double crochet in the next 2, and then a regular double crochet in the next. We skipped the next stitch, stitched a V-stitch, skipped the next stitch, and then we did what we did over here in reverse. Double crochet, front post, double crochet, and the last 2 are regular double crochets, and chain 3. And that's the way that row 2 should look. Now we're ready for row 3. We've chained 3. We're going to turn our work, and again we're going to count our chain 3 as our first double crochet and double crochet in the next. Now because we're working on the back of our work, we're going to do 1 back post double crochet in those 2 front posts. All right, so we're going to go around that post and stitch 1 and 2 back post double crochets, and then we'll double crochet in that next double crochet. Let's take a second real quick to take a look at that. See, we've stitched those 2 back posts in our 2 front posts. All right, let's turn our work back over. Now we're back on the back side of our work, and we're going to stitch a back post double crochet around the first double crochet of our V-stitch. All right, so we're going to go make a back post. We're going to chain 1 and then back post over that next double crochet of our V-stitch. All right, now we'll double crochet in the next double crochet. We're going to back post in those next 2 front post stitches. 1 and 2. And that leaves the last 2 double crochets, and we'll double crochet in those last 2 stitches. All right, let's chain 3. This is how it looks on the back. And then when we turn our work, this is how it looks on the front. We have our 2 double crochets, our 2 back posts that we stitched in the front post, and then a double crochet. And then on that V-stitch, we back post in the first double crochet of our V-stitch, chained 1, and then back post in that second double crochet of our V-stitch. That's called a back post V-stitch. Then we did a double crochet, 2 back posts in those 2 front posts, and then 2 double crochet. And that is the way that row 3 should look. And then of course we chained 3. We chained 3 and we turned, of course, back to the front of our work, and we're going to repeat what we did on row 2. So we're going to double crochet in the next stitch. We're going to front post in those 2 back post double crochets. So there's 2 front post double crochets. Now we'll double crochet in the next double crochet, and we'll V-stitch in the chain 1 space of our V-stitch. So that's double crochet, chain 1, and double crochet. Then we'll double crochet in that next double crochet, front post double crochet in the next 2, 1 and 2, and then 1 double crochet in the last 2 double crochet stitches. And chain 3. So row 4 was basically a repeat of row 2. So now we're going to do row 5, and row 5 is basically a repeat of row 3. All right, so we've chained 3. We're going to turn our work, double crochet in the next. We're going to back post double crochet in the next 2 front post double crochets. Then we'll double crochet in that next double crochet, and that brings us to our V-stitch. And we're going to back post double crochet in the double crochet of our V-stitch, chain 1, and then back post double crochet in that next double crochet of our V-stitch. All right, so now we're going to double crochet in the next double crochet. We're going to back post double crochet in these next 2 front post stitches, and then 1 double crochet in the last 2 stitches. And chain 3. Again, this is how it looks on the back, and when we turn it over, you can see how that looks like a mock cable stitch, because we're doing 2 rows here, or 2 stitches on each row here, where we're front post and back post stitching. Same thing over here, and then we're back posting in our V-stitch. All right, that's how row 5 should look. All right, let's do 2 more rows, another on the front, another on the back, row 6 and 7, just so that you get an idea of how the 2-row repeat works. Because once you get the 2-row repeat down, it's super simple. Okay, so we've double crocheted. We're going to double crochet in the next double crochet, because again, on every row, our chain 3 counts as our first double crochet. Now we're going to stitch 2 front post double crochets, 1 and 2, and then a double crochet in the double crochet. Now we're going to stitch a V-stitch in the chain 1 space of the V-stitch, which is a double crochet, chain 1, and double crochet. Now we'll double crochet in the double crochet, front post double crochet in the 2 post stitches, and then 1 double crochet in the last 2 double crochet stitches. And chain 3. All right, so for row 6 we did 2 double crochets, 2 front post double crochets, and a double crochet. Then we stitched a V-stitch in the chain 1 space of our V-stitch, then double crochet, front post double crochet, and then the last 2 stitches are 2 regular double crochet stitches and chain 3. Now we'll turn our work, double crochet in the next double crochet, back post double crochet in the 2 front post double crochet stitches, then 1 regular double crochet. All right, that brings us to our V-stitch. We're going to back post double crochet in the first double crochet of the V-stitch, chain 1, and then back post in the next double crochet of our V-stitch. All right, then a regular double crochet, 2 back post double crochets, 1 in each of the next 2 front post double crochets, and then that ends with 1 double crochet in the last 2 double crochets. And chain 3. And we'll turn our work, and you can really see, I'm going to give you a kind of an angle here so you can see those stitches really well. All right, and that's our 2-row repeat for whatever style of the headband that you are making. They're all stitched the same, it's just the ending that is different. So now what you're going to do is you're going to repeat row 6 and row 7 for 31 more rows, alternating every other row. And that's going to get you the headband that's going to fit basically a 22 to 24 inch head. I do recommend that you grab your tape measure and measure as you work, because remember, we all have different tension. You might be stitching tighter or looser than I have, okay? And you want it to fit snugly. You don't want to slide off your head, because remember, yarn is stretchy. All right, so for the pattern, you're going to repeat row 6 and row 7 for 31 more rows. So this is how your headband should look after you did those additional 31 rows. And we did 7 and 31, so that brings us up to row 38. And of course, I've made 4 different headbands, all the same stitch, all the same size, and I'm going to show you how you can make 4 different styles of headband with these. And of course, there are more styles than just these 4. These are just the 4 most popular and the ones that I really like to do. All right, so we're going to show you all 4 styles. The first style is your basic headband. And what you want to do, lay it out flat, put your 2 ends together with your wrong sides out, And this is why you didn't want to chain too tightly. You wanted to be able to make sure everything lines up nicely and still has a little bit of stretch. All right, so we're going to grab our crochet hook. There we go. I just turned it to grab the loop. All right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to stitch it together using single crochets. All right, so we're going to go in this side and this side, going through and making a single crochet. All right, so we're going through the chain on this side and the stitch on this side. Let me bring this camera in so you can see it better. All right, so we're going through the bottom of the chain on this side and the stitch on that side and just stitching single crochets across. This is just your basic headband. No twists, no turns, no anything other than just lining it up, making sure everything is even, and stitching it together. And again, you want to make sure you've got your wrong sides out, because once we do this row of single crochet, we're going to turn it over to the right side. There we go. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and just do a chain one there and pull that out. And we have two ends to weave in. And so I'll grab my needle and tidy this up. This is an awful long end here, so I won't be using the whole end. All right, and so I'm going to go ahead and just weave this in. And you want to weave this in securely, going through stitches and fibers, because this is going to get a lot of stretch and you don't want that to come undone. All right, so I'll finish weaving this in and then I'll weave this end in as well. My ends are all weaved in and tidied up, and now I'm just going to flip it over. There's your seam, but that is how you do just the basic headband. I turned it so the seam is on the side so we can see that color in there. Isn't that pretty? All right, so there's our basic headband. I'm going to set that aside and grab the next headband. This next one is what we call a simple twist. Okay, so I've got it laid out flat. We're going to take the middle and only twist it one time, like this, and then we'll put the two ends together. Now, you'll notice that this is the front side and this is the back side. It's okay. It's just going to have a really neat appearance. Okay, so we're going to put our two ends together and we're going to do exactly what we did with the ends on the basic one. We're just going to single crochet the end together, going through both sides, and then we'll have that fun little twist in the middle. And you can move the twist, and I'll show you how you can do that soon as I finish stitching it together, just like we did with the other one. So I single crocheted the two ends together and I weaved the ends in, and I'm going to go ahead and turn it over. And so now you can see it has a twist. Now, if you want the twist to be over here, you can sort of maneuver it until it's where you want it to be. Okay, keep in mind, one half of it will be on the front and one half will be the back side. But this particular stitch looks super pretty on both sides. I just sort of moved it down so that it would be partially on the color. All right, and that's just a really simple way to add a twist very easily to a headband. All right, let me show you style or option number 3. So again, you want to just put the two ends with the wrong sides out together. And we're going to stitch it together just like we did on that first basic style. On this one though, you want to have a long end because we're going to use this to gather up the center. And I want that center to be right on the seam. That way we get that color change and we don't have to cut our yarn. All right, so I'm just going to stitch this together just like I did on the first style or option. So I stitched it together, single crochets, wrong side out, just like I did on our first option. All right, I've got a long tail of yarn here. I'm going to pull this because I want to pull that all the way through. Let's get that little knot out of there. There we go. All right, now I do need to take a second and weave this end in because we don't want that sticking out when we're working. All right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to flip this over on the right side and we're going to work right here on this seam. So what we're going to do is we're going to gather this up, and I like to kind of scrunch it, and we're just going to start winding this around. All right. And it will get tangled like I did. And we're just going to keep winding it until it's as thick as we want it. Now, you can do two strands if you want both colors. And we're just going to keep winding that until that's as thick as we want it. So I think that looks nice. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a loop. I'm going to do one more wind, and I'm going to come through this loop. And this is on the inside of our headband. Okay, and I'm going to pull that nice and snug, and I'm going to cut that so it's not quite as long. And then I'm going to take my needle and weave that in very, very securely. All right. And the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to go around those loops. Make sure I don't go to the front though. You don't want that to show through on the front. Okay, so I made a couple of loops, and now I'm going to go through those loops like this. And I'm going to keep doing this until I'm completely happy that that is going to stay in place, as we do not want this coming undone. All right, that's nice and secure. And we'll clip that off. And I wanted it at the seam where the two colors meet, even though the back is a completely different color. I like that. I think it's fun and pretty. And that is our third style or option. Style is what we call the twisted. It's not the basic twisted. It's a little more complicated. And in reality, it's not even really twisted. It just looks like it is. All right, so you're going to lay your headband out flat. This is your right side, so we're going to fold it up like this with the wrong sides out. All right, so you're going to fold this end and this end, okay? So we've got two folded ends, and then we're just going to wrap them so that one is inside the other. Let's string out of the way there. See how that looks? And I wanted to show you with two different colors. That way it makes it easier to see. All right, now this is the wrong side out all the way around, and then this is how we're going to do it. Now I'm going to take a pin and I'm going to pin this together because I think that just makes it easier. That's actually just a big needle. All right, because we're going to use our needle for this. So let me thread my needle. And I've left a really long tail just to make sure I have enough, because we want this to be very secure. All right, so I'm going to go through that loop because that we don't want that to come undone. All right, so make sure everything meets up because we're going to go through all four thicknesses. And what I usually do is do what I call kind of a stay stitch. And I just go through all four. I'm going to go ahead and take this needle out now. And this is like a placement stitch. It just Like when you're doing a hem, you want to stitch it first to make sure it's going to hold. All right, and now I'm going to go back through and stitch again, making my stitches just a little bit closer. And you can do as many stitches as you want. But that's why I said get a long strand of yarn, about 12 to 14 inches, maybe longer, because you want to know that that is securely going to hold. All right, now before I cut that off, I'm going to turn it and look at it so you can see how that looks. All right, so I like it, but I want to make sure it's going to hold. I just don't want that to come undone. So I've got more yarn, so I'm just going to go across it again. And I'm really liking this sort of minty green and this light teal. There we go. Look, I got a knot there. Well, that's not a good place for a knot. See if I can get that to... Nope, I guess I'm done. I have stitched it quite a bit, so we'll just go ahead and take that out. There we go. And now I'm just going to weave these in, and then we'll flip it over so you can see how nice it looks. All right, I'm all weaved in. Now we're going to flip it over to the right side, and you can see how pretty that looks. Isn't that pretty? I like having those two colors. I think it looks really nice. All right, so there's our twisted headband. So here is all 4 of our styles that we did today, all stitched using the same headband pattern. Here's our basic headband. It's just straight, a tube. It's adorable, but maybe you wanted a little bit of a twist. This is a simple twist, works great. Maybe you wanted it cinched up or gathered in the middle, works great too. And then of course our fancy twist. And this one is the hardest one to do, but it's really not hard once you get it in your mind how it's supposed to work. All right, so this is our 4-in-1 headband, a study in 4 different styles with 1 pattern.